Silence is where most people quit. There is a level of discipline that makes rooms go quiet. Not loud, not impressive. Just present. You feel it when someone keeps moving without explanation. Cold air fills the lungs. Fingers stiffen around familiar tools. No announcement is made. Others glance, then look away. Most people think persistence is fueled by drive. They begin strong. Shoulders tight with intention. Breath sharp with promises. Then the noise starts. Friends ask why you're so rigid. Mornings feel heavier. The body waits for permission that never comes. Negotiation creeps in, and training dissolves without drama. Silence does something different. A monk kneels on a cold floor while others sleep. A warrior ties his belt the same way, jaw set, eyes dull with repetition. No one applauds. That is the point. Those who last are not louder. They simply stop explaining themselves. Before you continue, write the practice you abandoned last year. No reasons. Just the name. He looked capable until the routine arrived. He looked like someone who would last. Upright posture. Clean plans written the night before. Shoes placed by the door. Morning air cut his throat as he stepped outside, lungs tightening, calves dull from yesterday's work. Neighbors nodded once. No encouragement followed him. The first week passed quietly. Hands wrapped the bar the same way. The floor stayed cold. Breath fogged, then steadied. He moved without checking the mirror. Others noticed the absence of chatter. They asked what he was training for. He shrugged and kept counting. The second week introduced friction. Sleep shortened. Shoulders felt heavier. A dry ache lived behind the eyes. His phone vibrated with messages he didn't answer. Friends joked that he'd become boring. He smiled without stopping, knuckles whitening as the set finished. By the third week, nothing dramatic happened. That was the problem. No visible progress. No praise. The body showed up before enthusiasm did. Knees folded to the mat. The belt was tied before the mind started bargaining. Breath counts returned when resistance appeared. He stayed anyway. Silence pressed harder than effort. Without noise, the question sharpened. Why keep going when no one is watching? Sweat cooled on the skin. The room felt empty. He could stop and no one would know. That thought lingered longer than fatigue. He remembered how it usually ended. A skipped morning. A justified excuse. The chain breaking quietly. This time, something else happened. He didn't argue back. He let the thought sit while the body continued. Hands moved. Feet adjusted. Pulse slowed. The room remained indifferent. Outside, life continued at normal volume. People rushed, laughed, complained. He returned home with stiff fingers and a blank expression. Someone asked if it was worth it. He took a sip of water, throat dry, and said nothing. The silence unsettled them. Days stacked without announcement. Training didn't feel heroic. It felt inevitable. When rain fell, he trained inside without thinking. When exhaustion appeared, intensity dropped, not presence. When the schedule broke, the next available hour was taken. No conversation followed these decisions. The change wasn't confidence. It was absence. The absence of negotiation. The body began to move before permission was granted. The mind arrived late and found the work already underway. People started predicting his behavior. That predictability made them uneasy. One morning, he noticed something small. Missing a session felt wrong, like leaving the house without shoes. Not guilt. Discomfort. Identity tightening around a simple act. The room stayed quiet as he finished, shoulders burning lightly, breath calm, aware that this silence was asking something more of him. Morning negotiation dies without witnesses. The morning did not greet him kindly. Cold settled into the joints overnight. Fingers felt thick, uncooperative. The floor pressed through the soles as he stood, breath shallow, eyes half open. The body hesitated for a fraction of a second. No one was there to notice. This was usually where things collapsed. Not through failure, but through conversation. The quiet voice that suggested delay. Just today. Just this once. The body listened before. Today, it did not answer. He moved anyway. The belt tightened around his waist with the same pull. Knees bent. The first repetition felt dull and heavy. Heat gathered slowly behind the eyes. Breath scratched the throat. The mind arrived late, already irritated that the decision had been made without it. Outside, someone slammed a car door. A neighbor laughed too loudly. Normal life continued, careless and awake. He remained inside, counting movements by feel, not by numbers. Sweat darkened the fabric. The room stayed indifferent. The negotiation tried again. Lower the standard. Shorten the session. Make it count less. His shoulders tightened as if bracing for an argument. None came. The body simply followed the pattern it had learned. Hands found their place. Feet adjusted without instruction. Pulse steadied as resistance burned out. Later that day, someone asked how he stayed so consistent. The question carried admiration and suspicion. He wiped his hands, skin dry and tight, and changed the subject. The silence that followed made the other person uncomfortable. They filled it with jokes. The absence of explanation became a boundary. Friends stopped offering advice. Invitations arrived with a quiet understanding that he might decline. His routine became predictable. Predictability made people uneasy. They prefer chaos that can be negotiated with. That evening, fatigue settled deep into the legs. A dull ache pulsed with each step. He stretched without ceremony, eyes unfocused. There was no sense of victory. Only completion. The chain remained intact. Lying down, breath finally slowed. The body felt spent but orderly. The mind searched for meaning and found none offered. That unsettled it. Without a story, there was only repetition. Somewhere between exhaustion and sleep, a realization brushed past without words. Silence wasn't removing effort. It was removing the audience. And without an audience, the argument had nowhere to stand. The next morning would test that again. The body learns before the mind agrees. The first sign wasn't strength. It was timing. He woke before the alarm, eyes opening into darkness, chest rising as if called. The room was cold. Skin reacted before thought formed. He stood without deciding. The floor bit into bare feet. Somewhere inside, the mind lagged behind. By the time resistance arrived, his hands were already working. Wrapping. Adjusting. Repeating. Shoulders complained with a familiar tightness. Breath moved shallow, then deepened. Heat spread across the back. The argument tried to catch up and found itself irrelevant. This unsettled him at first. He was used to force. Used to convincing himself. Now the body moved as if the choice had already been made elsewhere. The sensation felt neutral. Almost impersonal. That absence of drama made it harder to quit. At work, the stiffness followed him. Fingers slow on keys. Legs heavy under the desk. Someone commented that he looked tired. He nodded once. Another joked that he should take it easy. The comment lingered, not as temptation, but as noise. Noise he didn't answer. That evening, training time arrived while the mind was busy. Messages stacked up unanswered. A dull ache sat in the hips. He noticed the impulse to delay, not as a command, but as a sound passing through. The body stood anyway. The room accepted him without reaction. Repetition smoothed the edges. Each movement landed closer to where it should. Breath aligned with effort. Pulse steadied under strain. The mind searched for something to latch onto and found only sensation. Sweat cooled on the forearms. The floor remained cold. Nothing changed, and that steadiness carried weight. People around him began adjusting without discussion. Meetings were scheduled around his absence. Invitations softened, then thinned. Someone remarked that he was becoming predictable. The word was meant as a joke. It wasn't received that way. Predictability wasn't control. It was relief. No decisions meant no friction inside. When fatigue rose, he slowed without stopping. When pain sharpened, form tightened. When time shortened, presence remained. The chain held. Late that night, lying still, muscles humming quietly, he noticed a shift that didn't announce itself. Skipping tomorrow no longer felt like rest. It felt like interruption. The body had learned a rhythm the mind could not easily interrupt. Silence had trained something deeper than will. Choice disappears when time is fixed. The hour arrived without ceremony. The clock didn't care how he felt. The room didn't adjust its temperature. Cold air pressed into the lungs as he stepped inside. Shoulders tightened automatically, not with reluctance, but with recognition. This was where he stood at this time. Nothing else fit. Earlier versions of him would have checked the body first. Energy levels. Mood. Justification. That habit had thinned. Now the sequence ran ahead of thought. Shoes off. Hands washed. Belt pulled tight. The body moved as if answering a rule older than preference. There was comfort in the narrowness. Fixed time meant no bargaining window. The mind arrived late, searching for leverage, and found none. The floor was still cold. Knees still folded. Breath still counted itself when strain appeared. The work began without permission. Halfway through, fatigue rose sharply. Legs dulled. Vision narrowed slightly at the edges. Heat pulled behind the eyes. The old impulse surfaced: adjust the plan, save effort for later. The body responded by reducing speed, not presence. Movements slowed. Form held. The chain remained intact. Outside the room, life stayed loud. Someone knocked once, then again. A voice called his name, casual, impatient. He finished the set before answering. Sweat ran down the spine, cooling as he stood. When he opened the door, the pause unsettled them. They commented on his timing. He nodded and closed the door again. Predictable behavior made others wait. Waiting irritated them. They were used to flexible people. Adjustable people. He was becoming neither. On days when time collapsed, meetings ran long, traffic stalled, the rule adapted without debate. The next available slot was taken. No drama followed. No apology was offered. Training happened. Late, tired, imperfect. Continuous. The absence of choice began reshaping everything else. Meals simplified. Sleep aligned. Conversations shortened. He noticed how often others asked for exceptions, just this once, just today. He offered fewer of his own. That night, the body felt used but ordered. Muscles held a low, steady ache. Breath deepened naturally as he lay still. The mind searched for a reason to break the pattern tomorrow and found none convincing. Without choice, persistence stopped feeling like effort. It felt like gravity. Continuity survives what perfection cannot. The injury wasn't dramatic. No collapse. No sharp failure. Just a tightness that stayed after the session ended. A dull line of heat along the joint. He noticed it while tying his shoes, fingers slower than usual, breath shallow from irritation more than pain. Old instincts surfaced immediately. Rest completely. Wait until it feels right. Start again when conditions improve. The body listened without reacting. Training time still arrived. He adjusted without announcement. The movement shortened. Weight reduced. Pace slowed until sweat came later, not sooner. Knees still touched the mat. The floor was still cold. Breath still counted itself under strain. Presence remained even as ambition stepped back. Someone watching would have called it half-effort. Someone watching would have been wrong. The session ended earlier than usual. Not from weakness, but containment. He wiped his hands, skin tight and dry, and stood quietly until the pulse settled. The room offered no approval. That steadiness mattered. Outside, explanations were expected. A friend noticed the wrap on the joint and raised an eyebrow. "So you're taking a break now?" The question was casual, hopeful. He shook his head once. No elaboration followed. The pause made them uncomfortable. They changed the subject. Days passed like this. Reduced range. Clean form. No gaps. The ache stayed manageable, a constant reminder without drama. Some mornings the body resisted more. On those days, intensity dropped further. Training still happened. Continuity did something perfection never could. It kept the chain alive. Even diminished, the ritual held shape. The body learned that showing up did not depend on optimal conditions. The mind learned it had no veto. Others failed differently. He watched them disappear for weeks after minor setbacks. Injuries turned into exits. Breaks stretched into endings. They returned with stories and apologies. He listened without comment, hands resting on his knees, joints still warm beneath the wrap. One evening, stretching alone, he felt the tightness ease slightly. Not healed. Just cooperative. Breath slowed. Heat behind the eyes faded. The body accepted the pattern it had been given. Skipping tomorrow still felt wrong. Not morally. Structurally. The silence around the practice thickened. No announcements. No milestones. Just an unbroken line of days, uneven in quality, solid in existence. That line was doing more work than intensity ever had. And it was not finished asking things of him. Prepared responses replaced thought under pressure. The disruption arrived without warning. A late call. A shifted obligation. Time folded in on itself. By the time he returned home, the sky had dimmed and the body carried a blunt fatigue. Legs heavy. Neck stiff. The familiar hour had already passed. This was where patterns usually broke. When routine cracked, people paused. They assessed. They decided. Decision was the trap. He stood in the doorway, shoes still on, breath shallow from the cold outside. The thought appeared, tomorrow would be cleaner. The body answered before the thought finished forming. Shoes came off. Hands washed. The next available slot was taken without ceremony. The room felt different at night. Quieter. Air thicker. Movements slower. The floor still cold. Knees still folded. The first repetition burned sharper than usual. Heat climbed quickly behind the eyes. Breath scratched the throat, then steadied. There was no attempt to recover the missed hour. No effort to compensate. Intensity dropped naturally. Presence did not. The chain held. This response had been decided long ago. When schedule breaks, training moves. No debate. No evaluation. The simplicity felt heavy and calming at the same time. The mind searched for alternatives and found none waiting. Later, someone texted, surprised he hadn't answered earlier. Busy? The word carried expectation. He replied hours later with a single line. The delay unsettled them. They followed up with jokes. He let them sit unanswered. Obstacles began revealing themselves differently. Travel days. Illness. Noise. None of them felt dramatic anymore. Each had a quiet answer already prepared. When space was limited, the practice shrank. When energy dipped, pace slowed. When time vanished, the nearest edge was used. Others noticed the lack of reaction. They complained about circumstances. He adjusted without comment. The contrast created distance. Some respected it. Some resented it. Most didn't know what to do with it. One morning, exhaustion pressed harder than usual. Heavy eyelids. Dry mouth. A dull ache running down the legs. He shortened the session to minutes. Minutes still counted. Sweat barely formed. Breath remained shallow. Completion still occurred. The body responded to this consistency with trust. It stopped flaring panic at disruption. It accepted adaptation as normal. The mind followed reluctantly, losing ground with each quiet repetition. That night, lying still, muscles humming softly, he noticed how rarely he felt cornered anymore. Pressure arrived. Response followed. No space opened for panic or excuse. Persistence had moved upstream. By the time problems appeared, the answer was already in motion. Others feel it when you stop explaining yourself. The shift didn't announce itself. It surfaced in rooms, not in mirrors. He noticed it first in how people paused around him. Conversations slowed. Jokes landed softer. There was a subtle recalibration when he entered, as if others sensed a rhythm they couldn't interrupt. His routine was no longer private. Not because he spoke about it, but because it shaped his availability. He arrived early and left on time. Hands steady, shoulders relaxed, eyes unhurried. Someone commented that he was hard to pin down lately. The tone carried irritation masked as humor. Training continued without witnesses. Cold air in the lungs. Stiff fingers wrapping familiar grips. The floor still cold against the knees. Breath counting itself when pressure rose. Nothing about the practice changed. The outside world reacted instead. Friends tested boundaries without saying so. Last-minute plans. Casual requests. It won't take long. He declined without justification. Silence followed. The absence of explanation forced them to supply their own meanings. Some assumed arrogance. Some assumed obsession. Neither mattered. At work, predictability turned into quiet authority. Deadlines were met without urgency. Fatigue showed up in the body, dull ache in the legs, tight shoulders, but not in behavior. Someone remarked that he never seemed rushed. Another asked how he stayed so disciplined. The question hung, unanswered, and made them uneasy. The practice stripped away a certain softness. Not kindness, but pliability. He no longer adjusted himself to maintain comfort around others. This created friction. People prefer negotiable patterns. Fixed ones reflect their own inconsistency back at them. One evening, after training, sweat cooling on the skin, breath deep and even, he sat without distraction. The room was quiet. Muscles hummed with use. The day felt complete without needing to be full. That completeness did not extend outward. Messages waited unanswered. Not out of avoidance, but alignment. He responded later, briefly. The delay changed the tone of future messages. Expectations recalibrated themselves. Someone finally asked directly why he was like this now. The question carried confusion more than curiosity. He wiped his hands, skin dry, pulse still steady, and said nothing. The silence stretched. They filled it with speculation. He let them. This was the cost most people never calculated. Persistence without explanation removes social cushioning. It exposes preference for convenience. It clarifies who can stand next to something unyielding. The body bore its own costs. Heavy eyelids on early mornings. Tight hips loosening slowly. Occasional sharp reminders of limits. None of it felt like sacrifice. It felt like maintenance. What replaced motivation was something colder and steadier. A refusal to reintroduce choice. A life shaped by responses already decided. The silence around the practice thickened into a boundary others could feel but not cross. He noticed that fewer people tried to change his mind now. That was not isolation. It was alignment, when discipline no longer needs your permission. At some point, the effort stops announcing itself. The body still wakes early. Cold air still fills the lungs. Muscles still carry dull ache into the day. None of it feels heroic. None of it feels optional. The practice happens the way breathing happens, without consultation. This is where discipline is misunderstood. It is not something you summon each morning. It is not sustained by desire or belief. It is sustained by removal. Removal of choice. Removal of audience. Removal of explanation. The unshakable person is not the strongest in the room. It is the one who no longer negotiates with himself. When time arrives, he moves. When conditions degrade, he adjusts. When others question, he remains silent. The body acts. The mind follows late. Silence becomes the container. Inside it, persistence no longer needs reinforcement. It no longer needs reminders or stories about why it matters. It simply continues, like a line drawn once and never redrawn. This kind of discipline costs something. It costs social comfort. It costs flexibility that others rely on. It costs the ability to disappear quietly when things get uncomfortable. In exchange, it gives something colder and more durable. Identity. Not the identity you claim. The one others feel without you speaking. The one that shows up in your timing, your absence, your refusal to renegotiate what has already been decided. If this exposed something you've been avoiding, don't explain it. Comment one practice you will perform in silence for the next 30 days. One sentence. No context. No justification,